A couple snaps selfies outside a complex in Natanz, smiling, unremarkable, holding a worn, lonely planet guide. The woman adjusts her sunglasses. The man checks his camera settings. They look like every other tourist who wanders too close to industrial sites, drawn by curiosity or ignorance. The security guard barely glances at them, just another pair of foreigners who don't understand the signs. He waves them back with a bored gesture. They apologize in broken Farsi, laughing at their mistake. They walk away still taking photos, still smiling. What the guard can't see is the lens angle. It's not capturing their faces. It's mapping the facility perimeter, counting security rotations, recording ventilation shaft locations. Frame by frame, the camera builds a three-dimensional model, guard positions at 1400 hours, camera blind spots, entry protocols. They're not tourists. And within 72 hours, their memory cards will be in a windowless room in Tel Aviv, analyzed by specialists who haven't slept in days. The images will reveal what satellites can't, what signals intelligence misses, what Iran has been hiding underground. This is the story of how Israel's intelligence service infiltrated one of the most secretive nuclear programs on Earth. Not with drones, not with hackers, with people. Ordinary-looking people holding cameras and guidebooks, walking straight into facilities that weren't supposed to exist. And Iran had no idea. The year is 2008. Deep beneath the desert in central Iran, thousands of centrifuges spin in climate-controlled halls. They're enriching uranium, taking natural uranium and concentrating the isotope that makes nuclear weapons possible. The process is slow, methodical, and according to Iran's government, entirely peaceful. They insist it's for energy, for medicine, for civilian purposes. Israel doesn't believe them. The intelligence community in Tel Aviv has been tracking Iran's nuclear ambitions for decades. Since the 1980s, when the program first emerged from the chaos of the Iran-Iraq war. Back then, it was primitive, scattered research, limited capability, but it grew, survived international pressure, sanctions, sabotage attempts. By 2008, it's sophisticated, underground, hardened against airstrikes, and it's accelerating. Satellite imagery shows the facilities: Natanz, Fordow, Arak. Massive complexes surrounded by air defense systems. Some built into mountains, buried under meters of reinforced concrete. The images reveal the buildings, the perimeters. But they can't see inside, can't tell how many centrifuges are spinning, can't measure enrichment levels, can't identify vulnerabilities. Signals intelligence picks up communications, encrypted, fragmentary. Analysts piece together organizational charts, supply chains, key personnel. But there are gaps, crucial gaps. What specific equipment are they using? What are the security protocols? Where exactly are the control systems? How do the facilities actually operate, minute by minute, day by day? These are questions satellites can't answer. Neither can intercepted phone calls or stolen documents. Someone needs to get inside, not just inside Iran, inside the facilities themselves. But there's a problem. Iran's nuclear sites are among the most heavily guarded locations on Earth. Military checkpoints, biometric scanners, background checks that go back generations. Intelligence officers trained by Russian advisors. Security protocols designed specifically to catch Israeli spies. Anyone associated with the nuclear program is watched. Their families are watched. Foreign visitors are tracked from the moment they enter the country. Getting an agent into a nuclear facility would be nearly impossible. Getting them out alive would be harder. So Mossad doesn't try to infiltrate the facilities as nuclear scientists or technicians or guards. That would require creating an entire false identity, a legend that could withstand years of scrutiny. It would require language skills beyond fluency, cultural knowledge down to the smallest gesture. One mistake, and the operative disappears into Evan prison, never to be seen again. Instead, they choose a different approach, one that hides in plain sight. Tourists. Every year, thousands of foreigners visit Iran. European backpackers following the old Silk Road. Adventure travelers drawn by ancient Persian ruins. Cultural enthusiasts exploring mosques and bazaars. Most are genuine, harmless. And Iranian authorities, eager to show the world their country isn't the enemy, generally welcome them, with conditions, with monitoring. But they come, and some of them take photos. Lots of photos. What Iranian security doesn't realize is that among the genuine tourists, walking the same streets, staying in the same hotels, are operatives who have trained for months to pass as wandering Europeans. Their passports are real. Their backstories are documented across multiple countries. Their social media accounts show years of travel history. They speak the languages, know the culture, can blend into hostile common rooms, and discuss visa regulations and recommend restaurants. They look exactly like tourists because, on paper, they are. The operation begins years before the first operative boards a flight to Tehran. In a secured facility outside Tel Aviv, planners map out what they call tourist corridors, routes that innocent travelers naturally take through Iran. Tehran to Isfahan to Shiraz, the classic tourist trail. Along these routes, marked on detailed maps, are facilities, nuclear facilities, research centers, military installations. Most are officially invisible, not on any tourist map, but they exist. And some are close to places tourists naturally visit, close enough to photograph. The planners identify windows, moments when a tourist, legitimately lost or curious or ignorant, might wander near a sensitive site, might take photos that seem innocent but capture crucial details. A tourist snapping pictures of ancient architecture might also capture the military vehicles parked 3 blocks away. Someone photographing a scenic mountain road might record the entrance to an underground facility. What security sees is tourism. What Mossad gets is intelligence. But the operation requires more than just sending people with cameras. Every detail of their cover must be perfect, flawless. Because Iranian intelligence will check. They always check. The operatives selected for these missions aren't the ones who look Middle Eastern. That would raise different suspicions. Instead, Mossad recruits Europeans, real Europeans, citizens of European countries who volunteered to work for Israeli intelligence. Some have Jewish heritage hidden generations back. Others believe in the mission for political reasons. A few are simply professionals who excel at this particular kind of work. They're given months of preparation. Language training, but not to fluency. Just enough to bumble through basic Farsi phrases, the way real tourists do. Cultural briefings on Iranian customs, religion, social etiquette, how to behave in mosques, how to dress, what questions not to ask. They study travel blogs written by genuine backpackers, learn the complaints tourists have, the scams they fall for, the hotels they recommend. They become the tourists they're pretending to be. Their equipment is modified, cameras with enhanced optical capabilities that look exactly like commercial models. The lenses capture more detail than consumer versions, but the body is identical. Memory cards that store encrypted data alongside regular photos. Phones with hidden secondary operating systems. Nothing that would fail a routine inspection. Nothing that screams spy. The cover stories are layered. Each operative has a reason for being in Iran. A German graduate student researching Persian architecture for her thesis. A French photographer working on a coffee table book about ancient trade routes. A British gap year traveler checking countries off a bucket list. The stories are documented. They have academic advisors who will confirm their projects. They have social media histories showing years of travel interest. They have emails with Iranian tour companies, hostel bookings, travel insurance, every detail verified, every potential question answered before it's asked. What Iranian intelligence doesn't know is that these covers were built backwards. The mission came first. The cover story was designed around it. Before we continue, here's a question. Drop your answer in the comments. When intelligence services use civilians as cover for espionage operations, where's the line between justified intelligence gathering and putting innocent people at risk? The first operative arrives in Tehran in 2009. A woman traveling alone, backpack covered in patches from previous trips. She clears. Customs without incident. Her passport shows stamps from Turkey, Georgia, Armenia. The border guard flips through it, asks standard questions. Purpose of visit. How long she's staying. Where she'll be traveling. She answers in English with a French accent, exactly as her passport suggests she should. He stamps it. She's in. What he doesn't notice is the slight hesitation when she hands over the passport, the muscle memory of someone used to carrying a different identity. She's done this before, different countries, different names. But this is Iran. The stakes here are different. The first 72 hours are the most dangerous. This is when Iranian intelligence conducts its deepest scrutiny. Foreign visitors are photographed at the airport. Facial recognition systems compare them against databases of known intelligence operatives. Their hotel registrations are flagged. Intelligence officers monitor their movements. In some cases, they're physically followed. She knows this. Her training covered it. So she behaves exactly like a tourist would. She's jet-lagged and disoriented. She struggles with the currency conversion. She overpays a taxi driver and doesn't realize until later. She checks into a budget hotel popular with backpackers and spends the afternoon sleeping. What surveillance officers see is normal tourist behavior. What they don't see is her counting the cameras in the hotel lobby, noting the sightlines, identifying which staff members watch foreigners too closely. She spends 3 days in Tehran doing what tourists do, visiting the Grand Bazaar, touring the Golestan Palace, drinking tea in traditional houses. Her camera is always out. She takes hundreds of photos, architecture, street scenes, local people who agree to be photographed, everything a travel photographer would capture. What the memory card also records are images of buildings 4 blocks from the tourist sites, government offices, research facilities, vehicles entering and leaving, secured compounds. She doesn't linger, doesn't stare, just pans across the skyline while photographing a mosque, and the lens catches what it needs. On day 4, she takes a bus to Isfahan. The route passes through areas where satellite imagery showed unusual construction, underground facilities disguised as industrial complexes. She sits by the window, camera in her lap, taking photos of the landscape, beautiful shots of mountains and desert. And in the corners of some frames, concealed behind natural ridges, are ventilation shafts, security fences, access roads that don't appear on any map. What other passengers see is a foreigner enchanted by Iran's natural beauty. What Mossad will analyze are the GPS coordinates embedded in each image, the angles, the distances, building a database of sites that officially don't exist. In Isfahan, she meets other travelers, genuine ones. They swap stories in hostel common rooms, recommend restaurants, share taxi rides to tourist sites. She blends into this community effortlessly because she knows how they think, how they talk, what they care about. To them, she's just another solo traveler with a good camera and flexible schedule. One of them mentions a scenic route to Natanz, not the nuclear facility, the town. There's a beautiful mosque there, he says, very old. Not many tourists visit because it's out of the way, but worth it if you have time. She has time. The next morning, she hires a taxi. The driver is suspicious at first. Natanz isn't a tourist destination, but she shows him photos on her camera, architecture from around Iran, explains she's documenting lesser-known mosques for a project. He relaxes. Foreigners with cameras are strange, but their money is good. What he doesn't know is the route was planned months ago in Tel Aviv. The mosque is real, her interest is real, but it also puts her within 3 kilometers of the Natanz enrichment facility. They drive through checkpoints, military police wave them through, a foreign tourist and a local driver heading to see an old mosque. Routine, unremarkable. What security doesn't flag is the camera sitting in her lap, recording through the window as they pass. The images are subtle, landscapes, the road. But visible in the distance, if you know what you're looking for, are the outer perimeters of the facility, guard towers, the positions of anti-aircraft batteries, the terrain. She photographs the mosque for 2 hours, genuine work, detailed shots from every angle. The tile work is extraordinary, and she's actually impressed. This will be in her travel blog. It has to be. Because Iranian intelligence might read it. Everything must be authentic. On the drive back, she asks the driver to stop. There's a view she wants to capture, mountains against the afternoon sun. He pulls over, lights a cigarette, waits while she sets up the shot. What he can't see is the lens angle. She's photographing the mountains, yes. But the focal depth includes the facility, road system, guard rotations, vehicle types, entry protocols. The frame captures it all while appearing to focus on natural beauty 3 kilometers beyond. She returns to Isfahan that evening, posts photos to her blog, the mosque, the mountains, comments about Iranian hospitality, and how underrated the country is as a tourist destination. Friends back in France leave comments. They have no idea what she really does. To them, she's exactly what she appears to be. What Iranian cyber units might monitor are social media accounts from foreign visitors. They'll see her posts, check her comment history, find years of travel content. Nothing suspicious, just another European wanderer with a camera. She extracts from Iran 2 weeks later. Customs barely looks at her. She's been posting daily, behaving exactly like a tourist. No red flags, no incidents. Her memory cards, encrypted and hidden in her luggage, pass through the scanners. They look identical to commercial cards. The encryption is undetectable without knowing exactly what to look for. She lands in Istanbul and disappears into the crowds at Ataturk Airport. By evening, she's on a flight to Athens. By midnight, the memory cards are in a diplomatic pouch heading to Tel Aviv. She'll never use that passport again. That identity is burned, but the mission succeeded. What Mossad now has are hundreds of images. Ground-level reconnaissance of facilities' satellites can only see from above. Details that signal intelligence can't capture. And this is just the first operation. There will be more, many more. The images arrive in Tel Aviv in encrypted files. Analysts spread them across multiple screens in a secured room. They're looking for patterns, weaknesses, details that don't match what satellites showed, and they find them. The ventilation systems at Natanz are larger than expected, much larger, which means the underground halls are more extensive than intelligence estimated. The guard rotations follow predictable patterns. Shift changes every 8 hours. 3-minute gaps when coverage thins. The perimeter cameras have blind spots, small ones, but they exist. What the analysts also notice are the vehicles, specific models entering and leaving, trucks with specialized equipment, patterns that suggest what's happening inside, delivery schedules, maintenance cycles. When combined with signals intelligence, the images create a clearer picture. Not complete, but clearer. They need more. 6 months later, 2 operatives arrive in Iran separately. A Belgian couple in their 30s, married according to their documents. Travel photographers working on a book about UNESCO World Heritage Sites along the Silk Road. Their website shows previous projects: Jordan, Uzbekistan, Turkey, professional quality images, and published articles in European travel magazines. The covers are immaculate. The marriage certificate is real, registered in Brussels 4 years earlier. Their social media shows their relationship developing over time. Engagement photos, wedding pictures, travel albums from their honeymoon. Every detail documented because Iranian intelligence won't just check the surface, they'll dig. What those background checks won't reveal is that the couple only met 18 months ago. Everything before that was constructed carefully, methodically. The wedding photos are real, but the ceremony was theater. The relationship timeline was designed by psychologists who understand how couples behave, how they interact, the small intimacies that can't be faked without training. They've been living together for a year, not in Belgium, in a secured apartment outside Tel Aviv, learning to be married, learning each other's habits, how they finish each other's sentences, how they argue, how they move through shared spaces. By the time they board separate flights to Tehran, they are, for all observable purposes, a couple who have been together for years. She arrives first, German passport. He follows 3 days later, Belgian. They meet at their hotel as planned. To anyone watching, it's a reunion. She kisses him at the lobby. Genuine affection. Or perfectly simulated. Even they are not sure anymore. Their equipment is more sophisticated than the first operatives. Cameras with military-grade optical capabilities, but housed in commercial bodies, the kind professional photographers would use. Their luggage includes lenses, tripods, lighting equipment, everything legitimate, everything functional. What security scanning the bags at customs doesn't detect are the microscopic modifications. Camera sensors that capture infrared data, invisible to human eyes. Lenses with range-finding capabilities that measure distances to the centimeter. Memory cards with partition systems that separate tourist photos from intelligence data. They spend a week in Tehran establishing their pattern, photographing genuinely. Their work is exceptional. They visit sites early morning and late. Afternoon, when the light is best. They're perfectionists. Other tourists notice. Hotel staff remember them. They're the serious photographers, the professionals. What surveillance teams observing them report is exactly this. Foreign photographers, legitimate, focused on their project, no suspicious behavior, no contact with locals beyond normal tourist interactions. Their social media updates show stunning images of Iranian architecture. Travel magazines are already commenting, asking about publication rights. The cover is working. On day 9, they travel to Qom, the holy city, home to shrines that attract pilgrims from across the Islamic world. Also home to research facilities connected to Iran's nuclear program. Not enrichment, research, scientists, laboratories, testing. They photograph the shrines with genuine reverence. She covers her hair, he dresses modestly. They hire a local guide who explains the religious significance, the history. They're respectful, interested. They interview the guide on camera for their book. What the guide doesn't realize is the route he's taking them on passes near buildings that aren't on any tourist map. Research complexes disguised as university facilities. And while she's photographing the golden dome of the shrine, her husband, standing 20 meters away, is capturing the reflection in his polarized lens filter. The building behind them, the security entrance, the vehicle checkpoint, it's subtle, indirect. If someone reviewed the image casually, they'd see beautiful architectural photography. But if you isolate the reflection and enhance it, you see what you're not supposed to see. They return to Tehran and prepare for the most dangerous phase, Natanz, the main enrichment facility. Security there is different, tighter, more paranoid. The entire region around the facility is monitored. Strangers are noticed, questions are asked, but there's a village 12 kilometers away, old, historic, with a carpet workshop that attracts occasional cultural tourists, the kind of place travel photographers documenting traditional crafts would visit. They hire a driver, a different one, someone without connections to previous trips. They explain their project, traditional Persian carpet weaving for a European magazine. The driver knows the workshop. His cousin works there. He can arrange access. Perfect. The drive takes them through checkpoints, not facility checkpoints, regional ones, Revolutionary Guard units monitoring traffic flow. The driver has the necessary permits, local resident, known. The foreigners' passports are checked, photographed, questions asked. Where are you going? Why? How long? She answers in English with a German accent. Explains the magazine assignment, shows credentials, press passes, letters from publishers, everything documented. The guard studies the papers, looks at their cameras, professional equipment. He radios someone, waits, minutes pass. The driver grows nervous. What the guard is checking is a database. Foreign journalists in the region, approved visits, their names aren't on it, but their credentials are legitimate. The magazine is real. The assignment letter has the correct reference codes. After 8 minutes, approval comes through. They're waved on. The photographer couple shows no relief, just polite thanks. But she feels her pulse hammering. That was closer than planned. If the guard had been more thorough, if he'd called a supervisor, if Iranian intelligence had already flagged patterns of foreign photographers near sensitive sites, they weren't flagged yet. The carpet workshop is genuine. They spend hours filming the weavers, asking questions through a translator. The footage is beautiful, authentic. They're genuinely impressed by the craftsmanship. This will be in their book because it has to be real. Everything must be real. During a break, he steps outside to photograph the village. Traditional architecture, stone houses, mountains in the background. He walks to the edge of the village where the view is best, sets up his tripod, adjusts the telephoto lens. What he's framing is the landscape. What the lens is actually measuring is the distance to the facility. The images capture terrain features, approach roads, the outline of underground construction. From this angle, 12 kilometers away, details are limited, but the GPS data is precise. The elevation measurements are exact. Combined with other intelligence, it creates a three-dimensional map. A villager approaches, curious, asks what he's photographing. He explains. The mountains. The beautiful light. Would you like to be in the photo? The villager agrees, poses. The photographer takes several shots, thanks him. They talk about the village, how life is changing, modern world encroaching on traditions. The conversation is recorded on the camera's audio. Innocent, natural. Exactly what a foreign photographer would do. What Iranian intelligence analysts won't notice, if they ever review this footage, is the precise moment when the lens shifts angle, 2 degrees, just for 3 frames, capturing what it needs before returning to the villager's smiling face. They return to Tehran that evening. The driver is paid well, tips generously. They're friendly, grateful. He'll remember them positively. If anyone asks, he'll describe them as professional, respectful, interested in Iranian culture. What he won't mention, because he never noticed, are the 3 stops they requested on the return drive. Brief stops, photo opportunities, scenic overlooks, each one carefully positioned to provide sightlines to infrastructure, roads, bridges, supply routes. That night, in their hotel room, they review the day's work. The images are good, better than expected, but there's a problem. One of the memory cards is corrupted. The encryption partition failed. Half the images from Natanz are unrecoverable. The most important ones, the terrain measurements, the facility outlines, they have backups. The second camera captured some of the same angles, but not all. There are gaps, critical gaps, and they're leaving Iran in 4 days. No time to return to Natanz. That would raise suspicions. Tourists don't visit the same remote villages twice. What they can't do is abort and come back later. This identity is nearly exhausted. They've been in Iran 17 days, much longer, and the surveillance intensity increases. Foreign visitors who stay too long get questioned. Deeper questions, background checks that might find the carefully hidden seams in their covers. They need different intelligence, from a different facility. The next morning, they pitch a new destination to their hotel concierge, Arak. There's a historic bridge there, ancient, beautiful, perfect for their book. Is it difficult to visit? The concierge hesitates. Arak is possible, but it's not a major tourist destination. Why not Isfahan, Shiraz? More to photograph there, she explains. They want lesser-known sites. The bridge at Arak is architecturally significant. She shows him research, academic papers about its construction. She's done her homework. He makes calls, arranges a driver, warns them that permits might be needed. The area has some restricted zones. Military, they know. That's exactly why they're going. Arak is home to a heavy water reactor, different from Natanz. This facility produces plutonium, the alternate path to a nuclear weapon. Intelligence on Arak is even more limited. The facility is newer, more isolated. Satellite coverage is intermittent due to weather patterns and terrain. The drive takes 6 hours, through landscapes that shift from urban to agricultural to industrial. They photograph constantly. The cameras never stop. Mountains, villages, infrastructure, building the portfolio that justifies their presence. 50 kilometers from Arak, they hit a checkpoint they weren't expecting. Military police, more thorough than previous stops. The vehicle is searched, equipment examined, passports checked against multiple databases. The officer asks detailed questions. What specifically are you photographing? Who authorized this trip? What magazine did you say? He produces the credentials again, explains patiently. The officer isn't satisfied. He makes a phone call, speaks in rapid Farsi. The driver translates. They're checking with regional security, standard procedure for foreigners in this area. What the couple can't show is nervousness. They're professionals on assignment, mildly annoyed by the delay, not frightened. She makes a joke about bureaucracy being the same everywhere. The driver laughs. The tension breaks slightly. The call lasts 14 minutes. The officer asks more questions. Where exactly is this bridge? Show me on the map. Why is it significant? What makes it worth photographing? She answers every question, confidently, citing architectural details, historical context. She knows more about the bridge than he does. Her expertise is convincing because it's real. They didn't just create a cover story. They created actual knowledge. Finally, clearance comes. They're allowed to proceed, but with conditions. They must stay on approved roads. No deviation, no photography of anything except approved historical sites. A security escort will meet them in Arak. This wasn't planned. An escort means constant supervision, no opportunities for indirect collection. The mission is compromised, but they can't refuse. That would be suspicious. They agree. Thank the officer. Continue toward Arak. In the vehicle, they don't speak about the problem. The driver might report conversations. Instead, they discuss the bridge, the light conditions they hope for, professional concerns, normal conversation. What they're actually doing is recalculating. The escort eliminates certain options, but not all. They still have cameras, still have equipment designed for subtle collection. The question is how to use them under direct observation. The escort meets them at the city limits, a young Revolutionary Guard officer, polite but watchful. He rides in their vehicle, explains the route, points out sites they're allowed to photograph, makes clear what's forbidden. The bridge is extraordinary, ancient stonework spanning a river. They photograph it extensively. The escort watches, checks his watch. They're allowed 2 hours. What he doesn't understand is photography at this level, how professionals work, the multiple angles, the lighting tests, the technical adjustments. To him, it looks excessive, but they're methodical, patient. And while she's photographing the bridge from the approved side, her husband, adjusting a reflector, captures images in the polished surface, reflections, distorted, but visible in the background, 4 kilometers upriver, are cooling towers, facility structures, security perimeters. The escort sees a photographer obsessing over light and shadow. What the camera records is intelligence, data hidden in the artistic process. They finish, thank the escort, express how helpful he's been, offer to send him copies of the photos when the book publishes. He seems pleased, gives them his email address. That night, back in Tehran, they encrypt the day's collection. The images from Arak are limited, indirect, but valuable. The facility layout, the water systems, security patterns, combined with signals intelligence and satellite data, it fills gaps. But they know something shifted today. The unexpected checkpoint, the intensity of questioning, the mandatory escort. Iranian security is becoming more attentive to foreign photographers in sensitive regions. What they don't know yet is that 300 kilometers away, in a secure office in Tehran, an intelligence analyst is reviewing patterns, foreign visitors near nuclear facilities over the past 18 months. Most are clearly tourists, random, explainable. But a very few, their routes are too coincidental, too precisely aligned with sites that aren't on tourist maps. The analyst hasn't identified a threat yet, just an anomaly, a pattern that might be pattern or might be noise. She flags it, requests enhanced monitoring of future foreign visitors to certain regions. Not a full alert, just increased attention. What Mossad doesn't know is how close they are to being detected. The window is closing. The couple extracts 2 days later. Clean exit, no problems at customs. They separate in Dubai, different flights, different destinations. The memory cards travel through different channels, diplomatic pouches, encrypted uploads through secure networks. By the time Iranian intelligence might think to look for them, they're gone. The intelligence they gathered is distributed to analysts, weapons experts, military planners. Every image is examined, enhanced, cross-referenced. The data from multiple operations is combined. Natanz, Qom, Arak. A picture emerges, not complete, but clearer. Iran's enrichment program is more advanced than public estimates suggested. The number of centrifuges, the enrichment levels, the timeline to weapons-grade capability, all shorter than hoped. But Mossad also identifies vulnerabilities, the facility's dependencies, supply chains, critical systems, information that will matter later, when decisions need to be made. What Iranian security still doesn't fully understand is how much they've revealed. The tourist photographers were invisible, professional, their covers intact. And there are more operations planned. Different operatives, different covers, students, journalists, business consultants, each one carefully designed to access different facilities, different information. The invisible war continues. 2010. A new operative enters Iran through the land border with Turkey. Male, mid-20s, Australian passport, backpacker aesthetic, worn hiking boots, faded t-shirt, the kind of traveler who's been on the road for months. His visa application listed him as a university student on gap year, traveling overland from Europe to India. Iran is just one stop on a longer journey. The border guards search his backpack, find exactly what they expect: camping gear, dog-eared, Lonely Planet guide, journal filled with entries about previous countries, Turkey, Georgia, Armenia. The handwriting is consistent. The entries span months. One guard flips through it, reads a passage about getting food poisoning in Tbilisi, smirks, waves him through. What they don't examine closely enough is the journal's binding. Between the pages and the cover is a layer thinner than paper. Flexible circuitry. A data storage device that would survive even if the journal was thrown into fire. It contains terabytes of intelligence collected from previous operations. Maps, guard schedules, security protocols. He's not entering Iran to collect intelligence. He's entering to deliver it to someone already inside. 3 days later, in a hostel. In Tabriz, he meets another backpacker, British, female, early 20s. They bond over travel stories in the common room. She's been in Iran for 2 weeks, loves it. The people are incredibly hospitable. He agrees. They decide to travel together to Tehran, share taxi costs, safer in pairs. What other travelers in the hostel witness is a classic backpacker meetup. Happens every day in hostels across the world. 2 solo travelers joining forces temporarily. Nothing unusual. What actually happens in a bathroom with the water running is a 40-second exchange. He removes the false binding from his journal. She tucks it into a hidden pocket in her day pack. No words. They've never met before. After this trip, they'll never meet again. But for the next 72 hours, she's carrying intelligence that could trigger a war. She crosses back into Turkey 5 days later. The data is extracted in Ankara, uploaded through secure channels to Tel Aviv. The young man continues his journey, posts photos from Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz. His social media shows a genuine traveler having authentic experiences, which he is. His gap year is real. His student status is real. The only thing false is his willingness to risk everything for a country he's never lived in. Some operatives work for money, some for ideology, some because they believe certain threats justify certain risks. Mossad never asks them to explain, only to perform. By late 2010, the intelligence picture is nearly complete. Natanz has 8,000 centrifuges operational. Enrichment has reached 20%, not weapons grade, but close enough to be concerning. The timeline to 90% enrichment, the level needed for weapons, could be measured in months if Iran decided to sprint. Arak's heavy water reactor is on schedule. Plutonium production could begin within 2 years. Fordow, a facility literally built inside a mountain, is hardening against conventional military strikes. The intelligence also reveals something else, something unexpected. The facilities are connected by a network, not physically, digitally. Control systems that manage the centrifuges communicate with central databases. Those databases are air-gapped, isolated from the internet. But they receive updates, software patches, operational parameters, through USB drives, manually transported by engineers and technicians who don't realize they're creating a vulnerability. What Mossad delivers to American intelligence partners is a complete operational picture: the facilities, the networks, the update mechanisms, the vulnerabilities. And a question: can this be exploited? American cyber weapons experts study the intelligence. The answer is yes, but it requires perfect knowledge of the systems, the kind of knowledge that can only come from inside, from people who've seen the facilities, photographed the equipment, documented the protocols, from tourists who weren't tourists. The operation that follows isn't Mossad's. It's a joint effort, American, Israeli. Cyber weapons instead of bombs, code instead of commandos. The worm is called Stuxnet. It's designed to do one thing: destroy centrifuges while making them appear to function normally. It spreads through those USB drives, introduced into the supply chain through contractors, engineers, technicians, people who have no idea they're carrying a weapon. By 2011, Stuxnet is inside Natanz, inside the control systems, and it's working. Centrifuges spin faster than they should. The control room displays show normal operations, but the machines are tearing themselves apart, thousands of them. Cascading failures that Iranian technicians can't explain. The enrichment program doesn't stop, but it staggers. Months of progress erased, equipment destroyed. Replacement takes time, money, resources. Iran's nuclear timeline is pushed back, not eliminated, but delayed. which was the goal. What Iranian intelligence doesn't immediately understand is how it happened. Mechanical failure, sabotage. If sabotage, how? The facilities are isolated, protected, monitored. No one unauthorized has been inside. They're looking for the wrong kind of infiltration. It takes months before the pattern becomes clear. An analyst in Tehran reviewing security footage from the past 3 years notices something. Foreign visitors near facilities, not inside, but near. Closer than tourists should be. She pulls travel records, visa applications, social media accounts. Most are clearly legitimate. Students, journalists, photographers. Their backgrounds check out. Their travel patterns make sense. But a very few. Their routes are mathematically improbable. The chances of randomly visiting areas near multiple nuclear facilities while claiming to photograph architecture or research academic topics. The probability is vanishingly small. She builds a presentation, shows her supervisors. They're skeptical at first. These foreigners were screened, approved, monitored. Nothing suspicious was detected at the time, but the pattern is undeniable. She maps it. Every foreign visitor who came within 15 kilometers of a nuclear facility over a 3-year period. Most cluster randomly. Normal statistical distribution, but 6 visitors, 6 separate individuals with separate covers. Their routes form a pattern. Natanz, Qum, Arak, Fordow, Isfahan, every major facility, every key location. The probability of coincidence is less than 1%. Iranian intelligence begins a retrospective investigation. They pull the footage, review every frame, and now, knowing what to look for, they see it. The camera angles that seemed innocuous at the time, the tourist photos that captured too much background, the reflection photography, the telephoto lenses aimed at mountains that also captured facility perimeters. They were there, walking among security forces, smiling, taking pictures, and no one stopped them because they looked exactly like what they claimed to be. The investigation expands, passport records, travel agencies, hotels. Iranian intelligence tries to track these individuals, but the trails go cold. The German photographer, the Belgian couple, the Australian backpacker, all of them vanished after leaving Iran. Their social media accounts still exist, still post travel photos from other countries. But attempts to locate them physically fail. The passports were real, the identities were documented, but the people behind them are ghosts. What Iranian intelligence realizes, slowly and with growing horror, is that they were comprehensively compromised, not by hackers, not by satellites, by human beings who walked through their security systems as if they didn't exist, who photographed their most sensitive facilities while pretending to document ancient architecture. The security protocols are overhauled. New restrictions on foreign visitors, enhanced background checks, forbidden zones, expanded. Photography banned within 30 kilometers of sensitive sites. Foreign journalists require special permits. Multiple interviews, guarantors, but the damage is done. The intelligence was collected, the cyber weapons were deployed, and Iran's nuclear program, while not destroyed, has been set back years. What the operation revealed to intelligence communities worldwide is a fundamental truth. In an age of satellites and cyber warfare, the oldest form of espionage remains the most effective. Human intelligence, people on the ground, eyes that see what cameras can't. Operatives who understand that sometimes the best disguise is being exactly what you appear to be. The Iranian investigation eventually identifies some patterns. Travel agencies used by multiple operatives, hotels favored, routes repeated. But they never identify the individuals, never catch anyone. The operatives are too well trained, too careful. And Mossad protects its people. Some of those operatives are still working. Different identities, different countries, different missions. Others have retired, living quiet lives in cities far from the Middle East. They can't talk about what they did. Can't explain to friends or family why they sometimes wake up calculating sightlines and escape routes. They carry the weight of invisible wars. By 2012, Iran's nuclear program is rebuilding. New centrifuges, better security, lessons learned. But the psychological impact lingers. Trust is damaged. Every foreign visitor is suspect. Every tourist photo is examined. The paranoia is justified. It happened once. it could happen again. What Israel gained was time. Time to prepare other options. Time for diplomacy to work or fail. Time to develop contingency plans. The intelligence gathered by those operatives, by people pretending to be harmless tourists, bought years. Whether those years were used wisely is a different question. The geopolitical debate continues. Some argue the operation was justified. Iran was pursuing weapons capability that threatened regional stability. Intelligence gathering prevented the need for military strikes. Lives were saved. Others point to the consequences. Increased Iranian paranoia. Hardened security that makes future intelligence collection nearly impossible. Diplomatic fallout when the operations were eventually exposed. The erosion of norms around espionage. Both sides have merit. Both sides have blind spots. What's undeniable is the effectiveness. A handful of operatives, cameras, cover stories. They mapped facilities that were supposed to be invisible, collected intelligence that enabled cyber weapons, changed the timeline of a nuclear program without firing a shot, without launching a missile, just by walking, looking, photographing. The operation also revealed vulnerabilities in security thinking. Iranian intelligence was watching for traditional spies, people trying to infiltrate facilities, recruit insiders, steal documents. They had defenses against those threats, layered, sophisticated. But they weren't watching for tourists, people who didn't try to get inside, who simply observed from outside, who collected pieces of a puzzle that seemed meaningless individually, but formed a complete picture when assembled. The intelligence doctrine called it ambient collection, being present in an environment and absorbing information that's technically observable, but practically invisible. A tourist photographing a mosque captures the mosque, but also the street, the vehicles, the people, the patterns. None of it is classified. All of it is valuable. Iran learned this lesson the hard way. Other countries learned it by watching. Security protocols worldwide were updated. Restricted zones expanded. Tourism curtailed near sensitive facilities. The invisible war adapted to new defenses. But the fundamental challenge remains. How do you stop people from seeing what's visible? How do you prevent cameras from recording what's in front of them? How do you distinguish between genuine tourists and trained operatives when the operatives are designed to be indistinguishable? There's no perfect solution. Security can be tightened, surveillance can be enhanced, but perfect security means no foreign visitors, no tourism, no cultural exchange. Most countries aren't willing to pay that price. So, the gap remains. Small, carefully monitored, but exploitable. And somewhere, in a secured facility outside Tel Aviv, planners are already designing the next operation. Different country, different threat, different covers, but the same principle. Hide in plain sight. Be what you appear to be. Collect what's observable. Assemble the pieces. The work continues. Invisible, patient, necessary, they believe. The operatives who walked through Iran, pretending to be tourists, will likely never be publicly identified. Their photos won't appear in history books. Their names won't be mentioned in documentaries. The intelligence. Community protects its own. Success is measured in threats prevented, wars avoided, timelines disrupted. They know what they did. They know what they risked. That has to be enough. For Iran, the realization came too late. By the time they understood the scope of the infiltration, the intelligence was already extracted, already analyzed, already weaponized. They could tighten security going forward, but they couldn't undo what had been observed. The centrifuges destroyed by Stuxnet were eventually replaced. The program continued, but the confidence was shattered. Every foreign visitor became a potential threat. Every camera a possible weapon. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. This is the legacy of the operation. Not just the intelligence gathered, not just the cyber attack enabled, but the psychological impact. The understanding that adversaries can reach inside your most protected spaces without ever entering them. That observation itself is a form of penetration. It changed how nations think about security in the 21st century. Physical barriers aren't enough. Cyber defenses aren't sufficient. You need to control perception, visibility, access to sightlines. The invisible war isn't fought with soldiers. It's fought with people who look like they don't belong to any army. Tourists, students, journalists, business people, moving through the world in plain sight. watching, recording, reporting back. And the defense against it is nearly impossible without sacrificing openness entirely. This is what Mossad proved in Iran, that human intelligence properly executed remains undetectable until it's too late, that cover identities, if built correctly, are impenetrable, that the best spies don't look like spies at all. They look like you, like anyone. That's what makes them dangerous. If this exposed the invisible machinery of intelligence warfare, subscribe for the next operation. And here's a final question for the comments. In an era of satellites and cyber weapons, is human intelligence on the ground still worth the risk, or does it create more problems than it solves? The answer might determine how the next invisible war is fought, and whether anyone will see it coming.